Hi, good evening, everyone, again. So my name is Kiana Machado, Senior Assistant Director with the Office of Undergraduate Admissions here at UCF. So just to give you guys some tips for knowing before you go and some next steps in the process at this point, if you have not yet submitted that enrollment deposit, that will definitely be the next step in the process. It is $200 and it will be applied towards that first semester's tuition. So it's simply for us to know that you will be attending the university and get the process rolling for you to be able to register for orientation and then move forward and enrolling in your courses. And also your Knight's email account, it is very important to have that set up because that is where most departments and professors will communicate with you through. So if you have not already done so, be sure to go ahead and sign up for the Knight's email to make sure you are still in the loop and getting all of that important information that's going to be heading your way. Now, as far as residency as well, that is something that our department oversees. So residency for tuition purposes. So that's going to be determined, what's going to determine whether you're going to be charged in-state tuition or out-of-state tuition. So through your MyUCF portals, you will be able to see whether your status is updated to Florida or non-Florida, if it applies, or if it's still in that pending status. If you're one of those students that are still in pending, please be sure to reach out to us so we can let you know what you need to update that status. That way, once you do sign up for your courses, we can bill you correctly for those courses and not be charging you out of state for tuition if you are in fact a Florida resident. And a big question that we get right now is in regards to scholarships. So if you have been offered a merit scholarship from our department, you will have until May 1st to submit that acceptance of the award through your MyUCF portal. But also, even if you have not yet been offered an award, you can reach out to us. My colleagues can put our email address in the chat. It's scholarships@ucf.edu. We can give you more information about your current standing. Be mindful that it is later in the academic year, so we don't have as much funding remaining for these opportunities, but can definitely go ahead and take a look at your credentials to see if you do qualify for any of our awards. And along those same lines, financial aid, which is a big question that we get as well. So beginning March 1st, our financial aid office did begin to send out package notifications to students. If you haven't heard from them and you already submitted the FAFSA, you probably will be getting something in your email shortly. Or if not, you can reach out to them. Their email is also very simple, finaid@ucf.edu, and they can go ahead and take a look at that for you. But also know that we do have different scholarship resources as well for our UCF students. So one of them is going to be A2O, or Access to Opportunities, which is through our financial aid website. It's simply a form that you fill out with your name, your information. It has some questions for you, and they'll be able to match you with scholarship offers that you may qualify for, with the vast majority of these being open just to UCF Knights. And also reach out to your colleges or departments on campus as well to see what they may be offering to their incoming students, and then do your own research. So fastweb.com, for example, is a great tool for you to be able to use to know what you may qualify for and what else is out there for you. And immunization records, it is very important to submit that information as well. So with these records, we have to have that in before you actually attend orientation to be able to register for your courses. But we do have an orientation colleague here joining us that can definitely give more information on that as well. And then last but not least, get us all final documents. So that means your final high school transcripts that reflect your graduation date on there, dual enrollment transcripts, as well as AP IBA scores to be able to go ahead and give you that credit. It's important to know that if you do not have these items in before the start of classes, or at the absolute latest, the end of the first week of classes, you do risk getting a hold on your student account, which will not only impact the disbursement of your financial aid, but will also stop you from registering for any future courses. So just a few know before you go items from undergraduate admissions. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kiana. That's quite a bit, but we'll also reference the admissions webpage for admitted students because all of that information would be repeated there. So lots of great information there. So next steps, we've got housing and orientation. Do I have a volunteer? One want to go before next?
I can go ahead and go. Howdy, y'all. My name is James Kelly. I'm the Interim Associate Director for First Year Experience, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about your next steps as it pertains to orientation. So after you've been admitted to the university, you've paid that deposit, it's time to get ready for orientation. And so your first step is to visit orientation.ucf.edu and register for orientation by choosing your student type at the top of the page. Once you're registered for orientation, we'll go ahead and enroll you in the first part of your orientation experience, which is your virtual orientation course. So here at UCF, we use a platform called Web Courses for all of your different classes. And so your orientation is managed through this as well. That web course will cover essential general university content, as well as have some content curated by your academic college to help you prepare for advising and course registration on that date. Once you've completed your web course, which you can complete at your own pace at any point, you are smooth sailing. And then your next step is your UCF success session. So as a part of your orientation experience, you'll register for a success session, which is designed to help you familiarize yourself a little bit more with campus remotely. This will be totally online. We'll have small groups, different panels of folks from across campus. And then we're working with campus partners to host what we're calling virtual visits, which is an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about some of the offices you might be interacting with here at UCF as a student. After your UCF success session, you'll have your advising and enrollment day, where you'll actually meet with your academic college and have a chance to plan your schedule for your first semester and then register for classes. You'll want to make sure you participate in all parts of the orientation process so that on that advising and enrollment date, you can have your orientation hold lifted and be able to register for classes. If you have questions about orientation, definitely feel free to send us an email at orientation@ucf.edu or reach out to FYE for more information.
Thanks so much, James. Orientation is a great way for students to be prepared for the start of the academic year at UCF. And Sandra from Housing, we know we just finished a session, but I know we've got some new attendees that didn't hear what you had to say a few minutes ago. So could you give us some highlights on Housing?
Sure, thanks, Jenna. All right, so quick highlights. If you have not yet applied for Housing, please go ahead and apply right away. It is first come, first served at UCF. What that means is your room sign-up date will be based on your housing application date. So a prepayment is required to submit a complete application. There is one prepayment per housing agreement. So if you are starting at UCF in summer B, which is that little half summer, it's 6 weeks long, the prepayment for that is $100. If you are starting at UCF in the fall, the prepayment for a fall housing agreement is $250. You want to look for your housing application status to change from submitted to confirmed once you have submitted a complete application. You will get an email when your housing agreement has been confirmed, and that means that you are guaranteed a room on campus in the type of housing that you signed up for. We want you to be sure you understand your housing agreement type. So as I said, summer B is its own little thing. It's 6 weeks long. And then we have two lengths of housing agreements that start in the fall. We have what we call academic year housing, which is fall, spring only. And then we have what we call annual housing, which is fall, spring, and the following summer. You cannot start an annual housing agreement in the summer. That would be summer B by itself, and then you would do fall, spring following summer. So just make sure you understand your agreement type and what you're committing to. The terms and conditions of our housing agreements are on our website under the apply information. Yes, they're long. It's always important to go ahead and read what you're committing to. Once you've signed up for housing, you are able to complete a roommate selection profile, and we encourage you to do that. So go ahead and use roommate matching in the housing portal and form a roommate group. We suggest that your group leader should be the person with the earliest housing application date because they will be assigned to the earliest sign-up time. Your group leader is the person who will place everybody in the group in a room. So if you applied in February, but your group leader applied in December, they're going to have an earlier time than you are, and they're going to be able to pull you up into your room a little faster. The Room sign up process online is going to begin around May and June. It is 100% online. So we are going to email you your room selection date around that time frame. We strongly suggest that you be familiar with the different room types available in the housing agreement you have selected. If you have selected academic year housing, fall, spring only, you have a lot of different communities included in that and a lot of room types to choose from. If you selected annual housing, your agreement is going to be much more specific. It would be only Northview or only Towers or only Union West. So be familiar with your agreement type and your room types, know what you signed up for, know what's available to you so that you can go through online room signups successfully. We strongly recommend everybody take a look at the living learning communities available on the main campus. Those are great opportunities for people to have smaller, more intimate experiences with roommates who may share an academic program or a special interest, like our Healthy Nights living learning community, or if you're a nursing major, you could live at Nursing at Nike. It's a group of one floor of all nursing majors who take a class together, they study together. It's a great experience. One thing that we strongly recommend is preparing as much as you can in advance for move-in. I say that, but we don't have the move-in information posted for fall yet. It has been an interesting year, and we're still learning more details every day about what we can expect for the fall. So we ask that you check back on our website frequently. The move-in pages will be updated every time we get new information. We will email you updates. So we also ask that you check your night's mail frequently. Move-in pages are going to include what to pack, what to expect, maps, dates, times, instructions. We will include expectations about how COVID is being handled on campus. So the campus mask policy, our guest policy, social distancing, and any COVID-related move-in aspects will be on our website. We also have all of the policies for what to expect while you're living in the halls in our community living guide. That is the document on our website that gives you all of the policies and rules and regulations for living in housing. So we recommend going and checking that out. And follow us on social media. We're pretty active. We post a lot of information, and just check your email as frequently as you can.
Great advice from every one of our panelists tonight. These are your experts to help you transition to be a new student at UCF. So we've got some questions in the chat. I'm going to try and rotate them between the three areas so we can get all of our bases covered tonight. So James, I'm going to throw the first one to you. It says, I am coming to orientation as an undecided major. How will that work? And what about an advisor?
Yeah, so for students who are undecided, whether you're undecided within a college or just undecided in general, you'll likely meet with someone from the Knights Major Exploration and Transition Center. So that staff is here specifically to work with students who are trying to figure out what their interests are. So when you're added into the web course, you'll be added into a course specific for undecided students. When you're working with people during your advising and enrollment session, you'll work with folks who are trained to work with students who are trying to determine what their major is. So you're in good hands. You'll be taken care of, whether you are still undecided during orientation or you're trying to figure that out. And they'll make sure you're in a class that is going to, or you're in classes that'll meet general education requirements and progress towards whatever major you end up landing on here at UCF.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Kiana, the next question is for you. Do we submit high school official transcripts after graduation?
Yes, so we would need the official final high school transcript after you have graduated. So you would not input any final grades into that Spark form if you already did it for your first semester grades or your 9th through 11th. You would just go ahead and get us the final transcript for us to go and have that added to your application file. We sure that includes all final grades as well as the graduation date on there.
Thanks, Kiana. James, we're going to go back to you real quick. I think several students might have this question. It says, if my student signed up for orientation and then accepted and then they were accepted to Excel, do they attend both regular orientation and the Excel orientation, or just Excel?
So if a student was registered for orientation and then found out they were accepted into the Excel program, you'll likely just want to change your orientation date to an Excel date. And you can do that by emailing our office. We're fye@ucf.edu. That's the easiest way to get in touch, and just explain your situation. And someone on our staff will work with you to get moved into that orientation date. If for some reason you're registered for a date and that is the only date or the only 2 dates that you can attend one of the orientation programs, still send us an email. Maybe there's something we can work out with you. But also, if you are unable to change your date, let the Excel program know and they can work with you outside of that. But you will want to try and get into an Excel orientation if possible.
James, we got a lot of orientation questions here. We're going to give Sandy a break since she had so many housing questions in the previous session for just a little bit, Sandy, I promise. So this student would like to know, what do I need to make sure that I have done everything other than the web course before I register for orientation?
So registering for orientation is the first step, and then from there we'll add you into the web course. In the web course, you'll just want to make sure you complete all parts of the web course, view all of the pages. Specifically, there are 2 quizzes in the web course that verify that you've completed all the content. So you'll want to make sure that you get those submitted. Then between completing your web course and coming to orientation, Kiana mentioned this earlier, you're going to want to make sure you get a lot of those action items taken care of, submitting your immunization paperwork, turning in final transcripts, residency classification, those sorts of things, as they can have an impact on whether or not you'll be able to register for orientation. Specifically, one of the issues we ran into a lot this summer was around students submitting their immunization paperwork. There is a separate hold that goes onto your account and will prevent you from registering for classes. So the sooner you can get immunization paperwork in, the better. And we have lots of information on our site and direct you over to the immunization webpage to learn more about exactly what you need to do to satisfy those requirements. Also, Student Health is a great partner in helping students track down immunizations, figuring out how to get immunized, and work through things like that. So definitely, like I said, make sure you get through those action items. And then during your UCF success session and during your advising and enrollment session, make sure you show up and participate. Attending those sessions are how we remove your orientation hold. So if you don't show up to your advising and orientation session or advising and enrollment session and don't meet with an academic advisor, we won't be able to remove your orientation hold. And so you'll have to reschedule your session before you'll be able to register for classes.
Very important to attend orientation to make sure you can get enrolled as a student at UCF. Sandy, I'm coming back to you. Our next question for housing is, if you apply for Summer B housing and then decide to take classes online, what would happen to the deposit?
Ooh, a good question. The prepayments for Summer B or fall housing agreements are generally partially refundable up to a certain point. I said earlier in a couple of sessions that it's important to read your terms and conditions for your housing agreement. Those terms and conditions include a table of cancellation deadlines and which portion of the prepayment is refundable depending on when you tell us you're canceling your housing. So if you decide that you don't want to live on campus during Summer B and you want to cancel that housing, the date you tell us you're canceling will determine whether or not you get some or any of that prepayment back, and it would be the same for the fall.
And we've got lots of questions about move-in, and I know that that's a question you probably have in your office and you're working through this. Can you kind of talk about how that will work and the notification for students?
Sure. Move-in is kind of my specialty this year. Right now, we're in the process of determining all of the COVID-related aspects of move-in, and those decisions are still being made. So whether or not you should expect to be tested, whether or not there will be documentation about vaccination, all of that is still to be determined. What you should pack is pretty set. Our packing list is on our website. What you should expect when you get here for setting up the internet, and if you want to set up streaming movie services and all of that, that's all set. So what I suggest is that you go onto the housing website, under resources, click move in. And then we have move in divided into 3 categories: before you move in day, and after move in. Each of those has associated videos that you can watch. The before you move in page is going to have the packing list. It's going to have a lot of information about what to expect, where to park, where all the communities are located. And then the move in day page is going to be updated much more as we go throughout the remainder of spring and the beginning of summer, when we know what the exact move-in process will be, whether you'll be doing drive-through key pickup or whether you'll go directly to your community. That is all to be determined.
I can tell you whatever the process is, it'll be very organized. Housing partners and professionals in that department have been doing this for years, and they know how to get you quickly moved into your apartment.
We do like our Google Maps. We do like our maps.
Yes. Okay, James, we're going to go back to you. Next question. Are the orientations virtual or in person?
Yeah, so all of the orientation programming that you'll participate in this summer will be remote. The web course is totally asynchronous, so do it on your own time. Take the time that you need, whether you want to do it in one sitting or do it one page at a time, one module a day. However you want to do the web course, that's up to you. You'll want to make sure it's done before your other sessions. But your UCF success session and your advising and enrollment date, those 2 will be synchronous, so live, happening in real time on the dates you register for when you register for orientation.
Okay. Kiana, we have a question about the math placement exam and when it will become available. Can you address that?
That is a great question. As far as when it becomes available, I want to say it typically becomes available for a student after they submit that enrollment deposit. You can definitely correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm not sure. James, maybe you know when that becomes available for students?
I don't know exactly the date. For FTIC students, part of the orientation registration fee does go towards the math placement test. So I know for sure around the time you register for orientation, you'll have access. And there's actually a page in the web course that talks more about taking the math and chemistry placement tests. So if it's not once you pay that admissions deposit, it is shortly after you pay your orientation fee, as it's included as part of that fee.
Perfect. Thanks for tag teaming on that, folks. James, the next one is for you. Should we start looking for the classes we'll be enrolling in and putting them in our MyUCF portal, or should we wait for our orientation to enroll in classes?
So I definitely think it's good to have an idea of the classes you want to take, but course enrollments will change a lot between now and when you attend your advising and enrollment date, only because current students will be registering for classes. Depending on when your advising session is, students will be registering for classes as a part of the orientation process. And so I would recommend waiting until you get a little closer to that date, maybe a few days before, maybe a week before, and then really start to look at, all right, what are the classes that I need? What are the classes that I'm expecting to take? As a part of your advising section of the web course, you'll actually do a worksheet that you'll submit to your advisor that outlines what credits are you coming in with, talks a little bit about some of the classes to consider that you might want to take and things like that. But there will be time on your advising and enrollment date for you to go ahead and start building your shopping cart. So when your orientation hold is lifted, you can go into registration and register for those classes relatively quickly. So I would say now is maybe a little too early, but within a week of your advising session, that's probably a better time for you to start looking specifically at what classes you want to take, checking enrollments, figuring out date, time, those sorts of things.
All right. James, I'm going to go back to you. If a student declares a major but decides to change it after signing up for orientation, would the change be reflected before they attend orientation?
Wow, great question. Something we run into a lot. So changing your major is totally normal. People do it. I think the average is like 3 or 4 times the average student changes their major before graduation. So we are prepared for folks to change their major. If you are changing your major more than 3 days in advance of your orientation session, you're probably good. you'll get moved into your new web course. You'll get your new advisor will know to expect you, all those sorts of things. If you change your major probably less than 3 days before your orientation session, definitely reach out to our office, FYE. It's very likely that you will meet with an advisor not in your new college. They'll still work with you. They'll get you, if not into a few like general classes, they'll get you into a class that'll allow you to register later after meeting with an advisor in your new college. But again, they'll get you advised and then they'll get you connected with your new college so that you can register for classes and be advised by the right college. But if you change your major, no big deal. Like I said, if it's more than 3 days before your orientation session, you're good. Not much to worry about. Just make sure you look at your new college's content in the web course. If it's less than 3 days, probably reach out to us and check in, and we can let you know next steps, but maybe expect to still meet with that old college during orientation.
But no matter what, if you change your major, we'll get it worked out for you. Sandra, one more question for you. Is there a specific housing recommendation for a student interested in the College of Engineering and Computer Science, similar to Nike at nursing that you mentioned earlier?
Great question. If you're going to be part of the academic program called Excel or Compass, we do have a living learning community for that group. If you don't intend to participate in that group, you're certainly welcome to sign up for any type of housing on campus you would like. The towers are fairly close to the engineering buildings, as is the Libra community. Those are the two closest. But all of the housing on campus is within walking distance of all of the facilities that you would be at.
Anna, I'm going to ask you one here. Will summer B classes be completely online?
Another great question. So as far as we are aware, the goal is to increase face-to-face availability in the summer, and the ultimate hope is to resume normal operations in the fall. So as of now, as far as we're aware, there's not yet that set schedule as far as what's going to be available online in the summer versus what's going to be face-to-face. You can probably have some of those set schedules made more available when you actually register and attend an orientation session. But the goal is to, again, start increasing face-to-face availability and hopefully resume normal operations in the fall.
Great. I know it's always great to see students on campus. Can't wait for that to happen in more numbers, see more people on campus. So James, let's go back to this one. Is there an in-person orientation time prior to classes beginning? But I know we have some welcome week activities and Pegasus Palooza. Maybe that's a good time to talk about that, is how we welcome our new students to campus in the fall.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, no part of the orientation experience is on campus. All of it will be done remotely. But like was just mentioned, there is Pegasus Palooza, which is hosted by the Office of Student Activities, or Office of Student Involvement, I'm sorry. And so OSI will host so many events in your first week of classes. And that includes students who start in summer B as well as students who start in the fall. But this includes your new student convocation, the nighting. There is a late night programs throughout the week. So ways for you to really start meeting new students, get a better feel for UCF, and just understand more about what it means to be a Knight. So while nothing for orientation is on campus, the Pegasus Palooza is a great way to sort of get some of those social aspects that you might have gotten during orientation, as well as have an opportunity to explore some different areas of campus as well.
And Sandra, I see you smiling because I know housing does some special things. You want to talk about that as we welcome new students and get them to know each other?
Sure. In every year other than 2020, we have thrown a giant welcome pool party and several events during the week of welcome. But in addition to all of the really big, large scale fun stuff, we also have community meetings, which are required after move-in, but they're a great opportunity to meet all of your neighbors and just start, getting all those contacts and finding out who you live near and who's around. So lots of stuff that housing does.
Lots of partnerships on campus to keep you busy, from the classroom to the social engagement. There'll be plenty of opportunities at UCF. So James, I'm going to go back to you, and this one's more about schedules and selecting classes. Andrea would like to know, would we use the schedule builder or Pegasus Path if we're doing orientation?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And your advisor will actually talk through that. So Pegasus Path is more of an audit about what classes you've taken, what classes you still need to take. Whereas the schedule builder, from my understanding, allows you to look a little more in depth about where classes fall. So, oh, I want to take this English class. What does it look like next to this math class? So it gives you a little more visual representation of what your schedule will end up looking like. So a lot of students use both at some point during the advising and enrollment process. It really just depends on where you are. But the students I work with love my schedule builder and use it every semester to figure out what their class schedule is going to look like. So you'll definitely get a lot out of that. And I know your advisor will work with you a lot with Pegasus Path.
Great, thank you. This kind of goes along with that. So James, I'll see if you can answer for me. Is there a list of general education courses, and how do we get info on general education?
Yeah, so as a part of your academic colleges portion of the orientation web course, you'll actually complete what's called a GEP worksheet. So GEP stands for General Education Program. And those are the courses that every student has to take, or the sets of courses that every student has to take to satisfy certain requirements here at the university. Unfortunately, when you register for orientation, the GEP worksheet isn't quite ready yet. So you'll actually get access to your academic college's content at the end of April. And from there, you can complete the GEP worksheet, get a little bit of an idea of what you'll need to take, and go from there. But the most up-to-date worksheet isn't ready quite yet. So you'll have to wait a little bit longer, but hopefully that just gives you a little more time to enjoy your senior year before you have to think too much about college. But if you're curious now, you can definitely log in to the university catalog and look at previous catalog years and get a feel for what classes folks have had to take in the past. But there are a few changes coming with the general education program in 2021.
Thank you, James. Kiana, this question is for you. Are there academic scholarships granted based on GPA and SAT scores?
Yes, so the Office of Undergraduate Admissions does offer our merit scholarships to incoming freshmen. So they're more commonly known as our Pegasus scholarships, and they are heavily based upon the academic credentials. Now, for information on your personal eligibility for these scholarships, definitely reach out to us. We have our scholarships email address here in the chat for you. It's just scholarships@ucf.edu, and we can definitely give you more information as far as whether or not you qualify for these awards and where we stand right now. Because as I referenced earlier, we do have limited funding remaining for these opportunities. So the committee is reviewing students for the awards, but more so on a case-by-case basis.
Great, thank you. I'm going to follow up that question with, are we hosting campus tours for admitted students before the summer?
So we are not hosting any in-person tours at this point in time. They do remain suspended indefinitely. Once we do bring them back, we will definitely let our students know, just monitor those updates on our website and our social media platforms. But in the meantime, if you do want to come on campus, you're still welcome to do so. We are still an open campus. We do have our self-guided tour map available online, which you can also put in the chat as well. Just make sure that you do follow UCF protocols to keep our campus safe. So you do have to maintain physical distancing while on campus, and also have face coverings on at all times.
Perfect, thanks, Kiana. And Sandra, I'm going to ask if our campus tours are suspended indefinitely right now. How's housing managing campus tours and of the different housing options?
So we're also not conducting in-person tours at the moment. We just gave a live virtual tour during which we had some housing ambassadors in tour rooms. Those students live in those buildings, therefore they meet the requirement for guests, but we cannot permit outside guests into the housing buildings right now. So what we're doing instead is we're doing weekly virtual tours where you can sign up ahead of time, join a closed Zoom session during which we will present information about all of our different housing options, including photos and lots of different walkthroughs. and you can ask our housing ambassadors questions specific to the type of housing that you're interested in.
Great. Y'all have been real busy with virtual tours. Kiana, let me take this one to you as a follow-up to our scholarship question earlier. Can the Pegasus scholarship be rescinded if grades drop during the senior year of high school?
It can be. So we do still need that final high school transcript from you. That's not just to ensure your graduation date, but also that you did maintain your academic credentials so that you still maintain that competitive GPA that granted you admission to the university. So don't get senioritis, still keep up those grades, make sure you're still in good standing. That way you not only maintain the admission offer to UCF, but also that Pegasus scholarship.
Okay. Sandy, we have a couple of follow-up questions for you based on the virtual housing tours. Are the Zoom sessions recorded and can they find the recording? And how do they sign up for one of those sessions?
We're not currently recording the virtual tours. They're closed groups, but you can sign up for them on our website. If you go to the housing website and click tours, the first drop down is virtual tours. And there is a link there on the page that allows you to select the date and time that you would like to sign up. We have tours occurring every week in March at 3 p.m. I will say that those tours just switched over to a different staff member a couple of days ago. And so if you go on right now and you're not seeing any tour times, give me about 48 hours and we'll have new tour times posted.
Great, thank you. I'm looking through the list here to try and find some different questions that we haven't had. Here's another housing one. How do I know if I've been accepted into the LLC I applied for?
Ooh, a very good question. And the answer is you need to keep an eye on your NICE email. The different partners that work with our living learning communities do approve those applications, and then they reach out directly to the students that they're approving. If you want to reach out to those different partners, we have them all listed on our website. In the navigation, you would just click on choices. And one of the first pages under choices is living learning communities, which we've completely redesigned recently. And now it has information for every living learning community partner there posted online.
Let's see what else we have here. Kiana, we have a question. Is there a way that our admitted students can talk to current and UCF enrolled students?
There is. So Undergraduate Admissions is offering live student panels. These take place every Wednesday at 3 p.m. So you can register for them through our website. And also we will have a panel session associated with our virtual open house later this week, which is going to be taking place at 7 p.m. And my colleague is letting me know when. So Wednesday at 7 p.m. through Facebook Live. So if you have any questions for a current night, definitely we encourage you to check that session out.
Okay. Sandy, this one's for housing. Is it possible to see all members of a housing group before joining the group?
I'm not entirely sure what they mean by see. If you mean like visually see a picture of them, that would usually be no. But if you're saying, can I see all of their profiles? The answer is yes.
I think it's probably about the profiles.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look for some orientation questions. Okay, James, here's one for you. Is there any instruction for finding shopping cart for classes covered in the web courses or during the success session day?
Yeah, so when you're going through the web course, there are all sorts of how-to guides about using my UCF, about using the self-service portal. So you'll find a lot of those guides throughout your time in the web course. Also, as a part of your UCF success session, you'll meet in a small group with another student or with a current student orientation leader who's there to answer your questions and can help guide you through some of those things. And then during your advising and enrollment session, you'll actually have the opportunity to participate in a virtual advising lab or a virtual registration lab where you'll have other people that can help you navigate the shopping cart. But at each step of the process, there'll be an opportunity to ask about the shopping cart, make sure you understand how it works and those sorts of things.
And here's another one for you, James. Do I have to do those GEP classes if you come to UCF with an AA from one of the Florida community colleges?
That's a great question. And that's definitely a great question to ask your academic advisor. So if you're coming in with an AA, you already know your major. I would recommend reaching out to the advising center for your college to get a better idea of what that looks like. Every student situation looks a little different when it comes to transfer credits and when it comes to an associate's degree. So I would definitely reach out to an advisor. I don't know if Kiana has any more insight from an admissions perspective, but I'm not overly familiar with how that degree evaluation goes into play when it comes to advising and the GEPs.
I'm so sorry, John. Can you repeat the question? I was going through the chat and addressing some of the questions that were coming in.
Totally happy to do that. Totally understand, because I'm trying to go through the questions as well. Basically, student wants to know if they have to complete the GEP courses that have been mentioned if they come to us with an AA from one of the Florida community or state colleges.
Yeah, so with an AA degree from one of our public state or community colleges, that GEP requirement is considered as being satisfied as long as you have in fact been awarded the degree from your local state or community college.
Thank you. So Sandra, I've got another one for housing. What if you want to live in Leeds or honors housing, but they haven't made their acceptances yet into those programs?
Good question. Go ahead and sign up for the living learning community that you're interested in. If for some reason you don't end up being part of that program, you can always just remove the living learning community from your housing and go ahead and sign up for a different building or floor.
Okay, the next one here. If I'm a freshman, can I still change my major, or would I have to contact an advisor?
Yes. So if you are a freshman student, you can still change your major. Incoming freshman, you can still change your major. Now, if you have already deposited with us or you received a waiver of the enrollment deposit, undergraduate admissions is no longer able to make that change for you. So what we do strongly advise that you do is to go ahead and update the major through your MyUCF portal. So if you just log in, go to student self-service, there's going to be a drop-down menu, and one of the options is going to be change major request. So you can initiate the process through there. Once it has gone through, you will receive an update saying that everything has been taken care of. That way, once you go to orientation, you're placed with the correct advisor within the correct college and department.
Great, thank you. Sandra, what residence halls are the most common for freshmen?
All of them. We do have freshmen living in all of our buildings and all of our halls. There are some that are freshmen only, like Libra and Apollo, but all of our residence halls have a significant number of freshmen, and then we have a lot of freshmen that live on campus.
Okay, so I've got kind of a double whammy here. This is housing and orientation. It says, if I plan on doing summer online and not applying for summer housing, is it guaranteed that classes can be online? Because of orientation, because my orientation where I select my summer online courses is after the housing deadline. So what would a student do if they don't get all online classes for the summer?
So I don't have an answer to what would a student do if they don't get all online classes. But when you're going through orientation, sort of going back to the when do I start looking for like classes, you might want to, if you have a specific requirement like that, like, oh, I only want remote classes, or I only want classes in this specific modality, it might be a good idea to start doing your research a little earlier about what classes you need to take and what classes you can take that'll meet that requirement. But when you're meeting with your academic advisor, let them know as well that, hey, I want all of my summer B classes to be fully online. And they can work with you to navigate that, as well as they'll have a better feel for, oh, well, I know that you can get into X class fully online, and I know you can get into Y class fully online. So they'll be able to help you with that. But in the event that you have to take a class in person, I'm going to throw it over to housing to talk about what happens in terms of living on campus.
Sure. We encourage everybody to apply as early as possible because we do run out of space. That specifically applies to housing starting in the fall. That is when the campus will be full almost every year. But during the summer, we have a much smaller group of students who come in. So if you're not sure about living on campus for the summer, it's fine to just go ahead and sign up for your fall housing and skip over the summer application. And then you can come back later and add a summer housing application because we'll still have space for you right up until summer move-in. If you wait on your fall housing application, that's where we can run out of space. But for summer B, specifically that semester, we have not run out of space in the 12 years that I have been here in housing. So you should be fine to add summer B as late as you'd like to.
Great, thank you. Excuse me, James, I'm going to toss it back to you. If a student has been accepted into summer B, are there two different orientations that they must attend, meaning both the summer orientation and the fall orientation?
Yeah, so if a student is accepted into summer B, you're at your advising and enrollment date when you meet with your academic advisor, you'll register for both summer and fall classes. So you only have to complete the orientation experience once. So that web course, your UCF success session, and your advising and enrollment date, you only have to do all of that one time. You don't have to do one for fall, one for summer. For students starting in summer B, there'll be students who are starting in the fall that are participating in the orientation experience at the same time on the same days you are. So the content overlaps. So you won't have to do it a second time.
Great, thank you. And Sandra, I've got one for you. If a student has a chronic illness, such as type 1 diabetes, do they need to communicate to the school before the term begins? And do you have any tips for the situation?
So whether or not you need accommodation for a medical condition is actually one of a short list of questions that we ask you during the housing application process. So it's one of the first pages of the application you get to. There's a short list of yes or no questions, and one is, do you need accommodation for any sort of medical concern? If you check yes to that question, we will contact you individually, and we will ask you to submit documentation supporting whatever accommodations you need. We can accommodate the vast majority of concerns that students have. Every once in a while, somebody will have a specific situation where we suggest that they look for some other type of accommodation, but we can accommodate almost everything from dietary to needing special entry to needing powered door openers, ADA compatible. Just let us know. We will reach out to you, and all of the students who request special accommodations are worked with one-on-one with our staff.
Great, thank you. Here's another housing question. Do you have a large number of freshmen opting to live off campus at places like Night Circle and The Point?
It depends on how you define large. We certainly don't have room for the entire freshman class to live on campus. So yes, we do have lots of freshmen who choose to live off campus. Night Circle is right across the street. It's one of our affiliated properties. Lots of incoming freshmen there, yes.
All right, looking for a few more questions as we have just a few more minutes for topics that we haven't covered. Sandra, this one's for you again. How can I edit my housing personal profile for roommate selection?
Oh, you just go in and you make edits. It's right there in the housing portal. You can change it at any time. If you're having trouble with it, you can just give us a call. We actually have real live humans answer the housing phones Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So if you call us, we can walk you right through the process, or you can just shoot us an email and somebody will reach out to you.
Here's another housing question. Is there a way to change agreement types if it is still labeled as submitted?
If you need to change your agreement type, once you have submitted the agreement, you do need our staff to go ahead and change that manually sort of behind the scenes. So you would want to send us an email. I will give fair warning that as we get later into the year and things are filling up, we're not always able to grant requests for agreement type changes. So if it's something you want switched, the earlier you ask, the better off you are.
I think that's the lesson here. Early is key. Submit things early, register early, get things done early in the process will make things a lot easier on everyone involved. I have one question for you, James. The Excel orientation is way later than the one I signed up for. Can I do the regular orientation and then connect with Excel afterwards?
I believe the answer to this question is yes. I would recommend reaching out to Excel as well and just letting them know, hey, I registered for orientation before being accepted into the program, or I registered for orientation because this date worked better. For a lot of special groups, especially special groups that don't have anything starting until the fall, there is some flexibility, and it may just be that on a day separate from your success session or separate from your advising session, you attend like an hour-long meeting or something like that with the larger group. But definitely just reach out to Excel, let them know, hey, I already registered. Do I need to change my session? More likely than not, they'll say no. If I remember correctly, we see a lot of Excel students at different times throughout the summer, just because sometimes students can't get into those sessions, and we understand that. But reach out to the program just to make sure, but you should be fine where you are.
Okay, and here's another follow-up to that. When do classes start filling up?
So that's a great question. We work really closely with the registrar's office to sort of release classes as orientations go on. So if you register for the first orientation session, every seat on campus won't be open. So for students who are able to come to orientation in May versus the students who come to orientation in July, you have the same chance of getting into most classes regardless of when you register for orientation. There may be some specific major specific courses that maybe have different capacities and do decline over the summer. But one thing that your academic advisor will work with you on is making sure that you have a schedule for your first semester that meets requirements for degree progression to keep you on track for graduation. So like I said, whether you come in May or whether you come in July, you'll still have the same chance for most of those classes as anyone else. So don't panic about it. Your advisor will help you through that process.
Okay, we've all gotten used to these virtual formats. This question's about orientation. Are they going to be done via Zoom, or is it a different format?
So our understanding is that all parts of the synchronous portion of orientation will be done via Zoom. From our conversations with the academic college, no one is using a different platform. You might use something different to schedule your advising appointment, but your actual video chat, like your video meeting, should be through Zoom.
Sandy, and this question isn't about housing, but I know you're well qualified to answer this. Are there any events like a club fair where we can learn about different clubs on campus?
Yes. So many events. Pegasus Palooza, the week of welcome, there are going to be lots of different events of that nature. And even if you don't attend an event to find out about the different clubs and organizations on campus, all you have to do is walk into the student union, take the elevator or the stairs up to the Office of Student Involvement, and they have all of the information on our student organizations just waiting for you. And there are hundreds of them.
We have reached the 9 o'clock point in the day, and we have had some great questions. Thanks to our panelists. For those of our attendees, we want to encourage you to join us tomorrow for our sessions. And again on Wednesday. We definitely want you to understand what your next steps at UCF are, learn about our academic programs, as well as our support for students. So you will see tomorrow's session. There is a live from UCF academic session that begins at 5 p.m. We've also got another academic advising panel, and our Compass and Excel session will take place tomorrow night at 7:15. So I know we had a lot of questions about Compass and Excel. That would be a great session for you to attend to get more details from those programs. Again, thanks for joining us. Go Knights and charge on.